Okay, so hello YouTube. Today I'm going to be showing you how to play against what we call the Torre setup. Now, if you don't know what the Torre attack is, or the Torre setup, it goes after d4, d5, knight f3, knight f6, bishop g5. This begins the Torre attack. Now, one of the difficult things that you're going to run into when you're facing the Torre attack is that white kind of intends almost invariably to take on f6, almost no matter what you do. So that's the first thing that you have to deal with when you're dealing with this setup. Is there's a lot of ways that you can respond here, and a lot of them are supposed to be pretty good. But my first initial recommendation is I think that you should move this knight into the middle and prevent that capture bishop takes f6. Just prevent the messing up of your pawn structures. So after knight e4, they pretty much have to play bishop to h4. If they retreat with bishop f4, just follow my recommendations from the London setup. Play c5, knight c6, queen b6, etc. And it should be a very similar position to the London setup video that I do, How to Crush the London, where you just have this advantage on the queen side, and in this case, you just have this extra tempo. You've moved your knight to e4. It should actually be even more favorable. So I think when you're playing against the Torre, I think the more dangerous move that you have to worry about is bishop h4, and I think the more sophisticated players are going to play bishop h4. So I think this is the move that you have to be concerned about from the people that know what they're doing. So now, again, I recommend the same kind of idea from my How to Crush the London video. I recommend this idea of c5, you're just going to attack the middle of the board, and you're going to get them to move pawns. So you get them to play e3, you play knight c6, you put that additional pressure, and then after pawn to c3, you play queen b6. Now, the Torre setup, I think, because of the fact that they have their pieces out and positioned in a certain way, they don't have to defend this pawn right away. They can actually play knight on b to d2, and they can kind of dare you to capture it. And you probably shouldn't capture it right now. It's probably kind of just a little bit too dangerous to capture it. So you should probably just continue to develop, and then they don't have a choice. At a certain point, they're going to have to defend it. They're going to have to play queen b3, and then you should just play e6, continuing to develop your pieces, and then they're going to continue to develop. They're going to play bishop e2. So at this point, you have kind of two options, and I think both of them are pretty reasonable ways for black to try to play for an advantage from here. I think black should have some sort of slight edge. It's not a major advantage or anything. You're not going to destroy the Torre attack or anything, but I think you're going to have some sort of advantage from here with one of two tries. So the first one is the simplest. You can play c4, and unlike in the London, I don't think they have the option to exact some sort of retreat with queen c2 to c1 and keep protecting this pawn without getting queens off the board, because you have this, super dangerous knight on e4. They can't get away with queen c2, and they certainly can't get away with queen d1 when their pawn on b2 is hanging. So c4 pretty much forces queen b6, ab6, and as discussed previously, this should yield some sort of slight edge for black, because black has actually been the one that improved his pawn structure. We've got the rook on the open file. This creates a pin, which, as previously discussed, it's going to make it very difficult for white to play b3, for instance. And then we're just going to continue to improve our positions with maybe moves like bishop d6, h6, g5, b5, b4, etc. And black should have an advantage here. So black should be a little bit better. Black should have a slight pull. So I think c4 might be the easiest option. The other option available to you is to play in a similar fashion that I recommended against the London. The one thing that I don't like about it is, against the London, with the bishop on f4, I was able to play bishop e7, and then play g5, and then h5 in one go. And that's pretty cool, because that was like super tempo saving. Like, we saved a lot of tempos doing it that way. And we actually gained a lot of tempos against the queen by playing c4 and forcing this queen back to c1 with tempo. So we had a lot of extra tempos in my How to Crush the London video than we're going to have here, because in order to do the same kind of kingside attack, which I think is very playable, we have to prep it with h6, which is a great multi-purpose move anyway. We're going to play h6, that gives our bishop retreat, but it's also preparing to play g5. So then after castles, I'm going to recommend, and they could also play, instead of castles, kingside, they could have captured on e4. I actually think knight captures e4 is probably the best move, and you'll see why in a minute. Castles kingside is the mistake. Castles kingside is the move that allows black to do some serious crushing, and I'll show you the crush here in a second. But let's say they play the best move. Knight takes e4, bishop g3. we should then play bishop e7, and then our plan is very similar to other lines. We're going to play g5, h5, h4, and what's interesting is in these continuations, we also have the option to play g5, and then at some point just castle kingside, and just leave our pawns on h6 and g5. We're actually going to be relatively safe, especially if queens come off the board. So for example, castles g5, dc5, bishop c5, knight d4, rook c8, everybody just kind of improving their position. Knight c6, bc6, bishop e5 hitting the rook. Probably best here is just to get that rook out of being under attack by just castling. And then after bishop f6, we can play king f7. And then black has got a slight edge just because he's got a slightly better center than white does. He's just got a little bit better of a middle. He's going to play king g6. He's got this nice, big, juicy center. He's doing pretty good. So it's close to equal, but I would say black is doing pretty good. But let's just say that white plays the move that I would say most people are going to play here. Most people that play the Tory, remember, they're playing it because they're lazy. They want to play a setup. They don't want to learn theory. They don't want to go into all these complicated lines. Now, there's exceptions. There's some people that will. They'll play the move knight takes e4 here because they've studied this position carefully. But there are, I would say, the majority of the players are just going to castle without even thinking, and this is where you've got them. This is like almost like a black to move and win puzzle. It's so nice. Is after castles kingside, you can proceed to crush them with the move g5. And now they have no way out. You're going to play g5 hitting this bishop, and then this is kind of the threat they missed. It's not g5, h5, h4, which is kind of the threat they probably saw coming, but after bishop g3, you're going to play g4. And there's a cutesy little tactic here. The knight on d2 was previously defended by the king, which castled, that is now no longer defending that knight. So white actually just loses a piece here. The game just ends, like with white losing a piece really quickly because there's nothing here. So like there's no way out of this. It's kind of embarrassing. So if the knight moves, we take on d2. So they have to play knight takes e4. And then we don't take the knight on e4. We take the knight on f3, because now we have a double attack. We're attacking the bishop on e2, and we're attacking the knight on e4. And then knight f6, and then we play king e7. And again, we've got a weird kind of double attack. We're attacking the knight on f6, and we're attacking the bishop on e2. And they have to give us a piece. So we're going to win a whole piece here. And that's how you could potentially, anyway, that's how you could potentially crush the Tory attack. So that's how you play against the Tory attack. If you play this line, even if they find the right move, even if they don't play castles, I think even after knight e4, bishop e4, I think this is still advantage black. I think black is doing fine here. I think this is slight edge. But if they castle, you've got this, bam, in their face, g5, g4, winning a piece. This is how you do it. This is how you take it to people that just want to play the Tory and want to play a setup, and they don't want to think about their moves. This is how you trap them, and this is how you win games. So I hope that this was helpful, and I hope that you learned something new about chess. Thank you very much for watching.